In 1981, Harley was on its knees, bleeding cash, and losing to Honda's reliable rides. Their bikes leaked oil, broke down often, and were the punchline of biker jokes. Instead of playing it safe, they went completely insane. Belt drives on choppers, pricey street racers, and quirky commemorative bikes for odd causes. Dealers struggled to sell them. Now, some of their rare bikes fetch over 50 grand. Good luck finding one. Turns out when a company's fighting to survive, it accidentally creates legends. Here are 12 Harley flops that became icons. If you're a Harley fan, tell us in the comments. Have you ever seen one of these rare 1980s beasts in person? Or do you own a classic yourself? Hit that like button and subscribe. Now let's get it rolling. Number 12. The 1980 FXRT Sport Glide. With under 300 units ever built, it's rarer than most supercars, yet most Harley fans have never even heard of it. This wasn't your typical Milwaukee Iron. The Sport Glide represented Harley's attempt to build a serious touring machine that could actually handle curves without trying to kill you. They mounted a frame-integrated fairing up front, bolted on hard saddlebags, and here's the kicker, put the whole thing on rubber mounts to isolate vibration. This was revolutionary thinking for a company whose bikes traditionally shook fillings loose. The engineering was actually brilliant. Unlike most Harleys of the era that felt like riding a paint mixer, the Sport Glide's rubber-mounted setup delivered a surprisingly smooth ride. The frame-mounted fairing cut wind better than anything else in Harley's lineup, and the integrated saddlebags gave serious touring capacity. On paper, it should have been a hit. Instead, it bombed spectacularly. The problem wasn't the bike, it was timing and identity crisis. Harley buyers in '88 wanted chrome, noise, and that authentic Harley experience, which apparently included being beaten senseless by vibration. The Sport Glide was too refined, too Japanese in its approach. It didn't fit the outlaw image that was selling Sportsters and Softails. Most came equipped with the aging shovelhead engine, though some late examples got the new Evolution motor. Either way, dealers couldn't move them. The bike lasted exactly one model year before Harley quietly killed it off, making way for the Dyna platform that would dominate the '90s. Today, finding a clean Sport Glide is like hunting unicorns. The few that survived are treasured by riders who actually understand what Harley was trying to accomplish, building a motorcycle that worked as well as it looked. Number 11. The 1980 6FX RS Liberty Edition. Only 169 of these were ever built, and 18 came in a color scheme so rare you'll probably never see one. Welcome to the Liberty Edition, Harley's attempt to save Lady Liberty and somehow make money doing it. In 1986, the Statue of Liberty needed serious restoration work, and Harley decided to help fundraise by building commemorative bikes. Because nothing says, restore a French gift to America, quite like limited edition Milwaukee Iron, right? They took the FXRS Lowrider, solid bike, rubber-mounted frame, belt drive, all the modern stuff, and covered it in Statue of Liberty graphics. Tank art, fender art, special badges, the whole patriotic package. Most came in typical Harley colors, but 18 got this gorgeous black and silver treatment that was way too classy for the average Harley buyer. That was the problem. These bikes were beautiful, but they cost a fortune and looked too sophisticated. Harley riders in '86 wanted loud, proud, and obvious. The black and silver Liberty Edition was subtle and elegant. Wrong message, wrong market. The timing sucked too. Harley was still dealing with their reputation for building unreliable bikes, so dropping extra cash on a commemorative model felt risky. Why pay premium prices for special paint when regular Harleys were still breaking down? Most Liberty Editions went straight to collectors who understood the historical angle. Regular riders walked right past them. The black and silver variants sat on showroom floors even longer, too refined for the typical customer base. Fast forward to today, and any Liberty Edition is worth serious money. But those 18 black and silver bikes? Good luck finding one that isn't locked away in some collector's climate-controlled garage. When they do hit the market, the bidding wars get ugly fast. Number 10. The 1981 FLH Heritage Edition. 784 units built, and every single one was a middle finger to AMF ownership wrapped in olive green and orange paint. This was Harley's victory lap bike. After buying themselves back from AMF in June of '81, they needed something special to mark the occasion. So they took the classic Electra Glide, gave it this wild retro paint scheme that looked like it fell out of the '70s, and loaded it with old-school touches that screamed, "We're back, baby!" The Heritage Edition wasn't subtle. Olive green and orange might sound awful on paper, but somehow it worked. Fringed leather saddlebags that swayed when you rode. A buddy seat instead of the usual solo setup. Chrome everywhere you looked. This thing was pure nostalgia on two wheels, celebrating everything that made Harley different from the sterile Japanese competition. But here's what made it truly special: the timing. This wasn't just another commemorative edition thrown together for a quick cash grab. This was Harley declaring their independence, showing the world they were done being corporate slaves and ready to build motorcycles their way again. The Heritage Edition came at a weird moment in Harley history. Quality was still inconsistent. The shovelhead engine was getting long in the tooth, and Honda was eating everyone's lunch with reliable, affordable bikes. Most manufacturers would have played it safe with conservative styling and proven formulas. Harley went completely the opposite direction. They built something so aggressively retro, so unapologetically old school, that it either grabbed you immediately or left you scratching your head. No middle ground. 784 customers got it. They understood that this bike wasn't just transportation, it was a statement. A declaration that some things shouldn't be modernized, corporatized, or made sensible. Those Heritage Editions that survive today are time capsules of American manufacturing rebellion. Not the prettiest bikes Harley ever built, definitely not the most reliable, but absolutely some of the most meaningful. Number 9. The 1983 FXDG Disc Glide. Take a low rider, stretch the front end, add some flames, and replace the rear wheel with what looks like a giant chrome dinner plate. Congratulations, you've just invented the Disc Glide, Harley's most wonderfully stupid idea of the '80s. 810 of these rolling science experiments made it out of Milwaukee before someone with actual sense shut the whole thing down. The concept was simple: build a custom bike so wild that even the professional custom shops would be jealous. The execution was, well, let's just say it looked better in the design meeting than it did on the road. That rear wheel was pure eye candy, a massive spun aluminum disc that caught sunlight and threw it back like a mirror. No spokes, no conventional motorcycle thinking, just this solid circle of metal that screamed for attention wherever you parked. Combined with flame tank graphics that belonged on a hot rod and extended front forks that stretched the bike's profile, the Disc Glide was impossible to ignore. Riding one was a different story. That solid rear wheel created handling quirks that kept you on your toes, especially in crosswinds or tight corners. The extended front end didn't help matters. This thing steered like a chopper but weighed like a touring bike. Plus, if you damaged that custom wheel, good luck finding a replacement at your local motorcycle shop. The custom crowd Harley was chasing? They weren't buying it. Real custom builders could create wilder, cheaper, and more functional bikes in their own shops. Why pay dealer prices for factory custom work when you could do it yourself? Harley's accountants probably weren't thrilled either. That spun aluminum wheel cost serious money to manufacture. The flame graphics required handwork, and the whole package carried a price tag that made regular low-riders look like bargains. After 12 months of slow sales and dealer complaints, the Disc Glide quietly disappeared. No press release, no explanation, just gone. Most of the survivors got converted back to normal wheels by practical-minded owners who valued function over flash. The few untouched examples that remain are automotive archaeology, proof that even Harley-Davidson occasionally lost their minds completely. Moving on to number 8, the 1986 FLH Liberty Edition. Another Liberty bike, but this one's different. 810 made, but only 748 were actual motorcycles. The rest came with sidecars attached, which is either awesome or ridiculous depending on your perspective. While the FXRS Liberty Edition was trying to be cool and understated, the FLHTC version went full America. This was the Electra Glide Classic treatment. Bigger, louder, more chrome, more everything. Statue of Liberty graphics covered every available surface. Special badging proclaimed your patriotism to anyone within reading distance. And the whole package screamed freedom at decibel levels that concerned local noise ordinances. The sidecar variants are where things get really weird. 62 FLHTC Liberty editions came with matching sidecars, complete with their own Liberty-themed graphics. These weren't aftermarket add-ons. Harley built them as complete units, which means somewhere in Milwaukee, engineers were seriously discussing the aerodynamics of patriotic sidecar design. Most of those sidecar rigs went to collectors who wanted the full touring experience, or older riders who needed the extra stability. But they created a problem for purists. Are they motorcycles? Or are they something else entirely? The debate still rages in collector circles. The standalone motorcycles had their own issues. The FXR platform was solid, but that Liberty graphics package added serious cost to an already expensive bike. We're talking luxury car prices for what was essentially a touring bike with fancy paint and some extra badges. Timing killed this one too. Harley's reputation was still shaky. Japanese bikes were cheaper and more reliable, and most riders couldn't justify the premium for commemorative graphics. The bikes that did sell went mostly to hardcore Harley fans who bought them as investments rather than daily riders. Those 748 two-wheeled versions that survive today are legitimate collector pieces. But good luck finding one that hasn't been modified or damaged. Most spent their lives as garage queens, which helps with condition but doesn't help with actual riding enjoyment. Lucky number 7. The 1984 FXRDG Disc Glide. If the FXDG Disc Glide was Harley's fever dream, the FXRDG was their attempt to make that dream roadworthy. 863 built, including 10 ultra-rare FXR-SDG variants with even longer forks, because apparently regular extended forks weren't extended enough. This was the touring version of the Disc Glide concept. Same crazy spun aluminum rear wheel, same flame graphics, but now with a fairing, saddlebags, and all the grand touring features that might actually make it useful for real riding. Harley was trying to prove that radical styling didn't have to mean sacrificing functionality. The rubber-mounted FXR frame helped with the handling issues that plagued the original Disc Glide, but that rear wheel was still a compromise. It looked incredible, like rolling artwork, but it was heavy, expensive, and a maintenance nightmare. Hit a pothole wrong, and you weren't just replacing a wheel, you were replacing a piece of sculpture. Then there were those 10 FXR-SDG variants with the super extended front ends. These bikes were so far beyond normal proportions that they looked more like land speed record machines than street motorcycles. Harley built them for customers who thought the regular FXRDG wasn't extreme enough, which tells you something about the mindset of early 80s custom bike culture. The timing was brutal. This was '84, right before Harley introduced the Evolution engine that would save the company. The FXRDG was still running the aging shovelhead, which meant reliability issues and oil leaks were part of the ownership experience. Hard to justify art bike prices when your motorcycle left puddles everywhere it parked. Most dealers couldn't move these things. The styling was too radical for conservative buyers, the price was too high for risk takers, and the shovelhead engine was too outdated for performance enthusiasts. After 1 year, Harley killed the entire Disc Glide concept and moved on to more sensible projects. Finding one today means tracking down a piece of Harley's most experimental period. These bikes represent everything the company was willing to try when they were desperate enough to attempt anything. Number 6. The 1984 XR 1000. 759 bikes that should have conquered the world but instead almost killed Harley's street performance dreams forever. The XR 1000 was supposed to be Harley's answer to every critic who said they couldn't build a real performance motorcycle. They took their legendary XR 750 flat-track racer, the bike that was dominating dirt ovals across America, and tried to make it street legal. On paper, it was brilliant. Aluminum cylinder heads from the race bike, dual carburetors, genuine racing pedigree, all wrapped up in a Sportster frame. The result was genuinely fast. This thing could embarrass Japanese sport bikes in a straight line, and had the exhaust note to prove it. Those aluminum heads weren't just for show, they actually worked, flowing air better than anything else in Harley's lineup. The dual carbs fed the beast properly, And when you cracked the throttle, it responded like a motorcycle that had been drinking espresso all morning. But Harley made one catastrophic mistake. They priced it like a piece of rolling jewelry. We're talking serious money, more than most people paid for cars back then. The XR1000 cost almost twice what you'd pay for a regular Sportster, and about the same as a loaded electric Glide touring bike. That pricing killed it dead. Performance enthusiasts who wanted genuine speed could buy proven Japanese bikes for half the money. Harley traditionalists who had that kind of cash wanted touring comfort or classic styling, not a stripped-down racer with minimal equipment. The XR fell into the gap between markets and couldn't climb out. The few riders who did buy them discovered another problem. This was still 1984 Harley quality control. Racing-inspired performance paired with oil leaks, electrical gremlins, and the usual shovelhead reliability issues. You got genuine speed, but you also got genuine Harley ownership headaches. After 2 years of dismal sales, Harley pulled the plug. 759 XR1000s became instant collector's items, not because they were great, but because they proved that even good ideas could fail spectacularly with bad execution. Today, a clean XR1000 is worth more than most new Harleys. Collectors finally understand what Harley was trying to build: America's first serious performance motorcycle in decades. At number 5, the 1983 XR1000. 1,018 examples of pure American optimism wrapped in chrome and frustration. This was the original XR1000, Harley's first attempt at building a street-legal version of their dominant XR750 dirt tracker. The concept was solid. Take the fastest thing on 2 wheels at American racetracks and make it road. Legal. Simple, right? The 998 cubic centimeter engine was legitimately impressive for its time. Dual exhaust pipes, racing-derived internals, and enough power to surprise riders used to typical Harley performance. This wasn't your grandfather's puttering around town Sportster. The XR1000 had serious bite when you twisted the throttle. But Harley's marketing department apparently lived on a different planet than their customers. They positioned this thing as a premium performance motorcycle and priced it accordingly. The problem? Premium performance in 1983 meant competing with established Japanese sport bikes that were faster, cheaper, and infinitely more reliable. The target customer for this bike basically didn't exist. Harley loyalists who could afford the asking price wanted comfort and tradition, not stripped-down performance. Performance junkies who wanted speed bought Japanese bikes that actually worked consistently. The XR1000 fell into no man's land. Too expensive for speed freaks, too raw for traditional Harley buyers. Quality control was still hit or miss in '83, which meant some XR owners got genuinely great motorcycles, while others got expensive mechanical nightmares. Nothing kills a performance bike's reputation faster than unreliability, and word spread quickly through the motorcycle community about which ones to avoid. The styling didn't help either. This was peak '80s design, all angles and aggression. But it looked more Japanese than American. Harley buyers wanted their motorcycles to look like Harleys, not like something from a Tokyo design studio. After struggling through 2 model years, Harley admitted defeat and killed the XR program. 1,018 bikes became accidental collectibles, representing both Harley's performance ambitions and their complete inability to execute them properly. The survivors are fascinating time capsules of American motorcycle industry. Confusion, genuine performance wrapped in terrible business decisions. Number 4. The 1980 FXB Sturgis, the bike that started a revolution, even though most people hated it at first. 1,470 examples of Harley's biggest gamble since they invented the motorcycle. This was the first belt drive Harley ever built, and it scared the hell out of traditional riders. Belts were for vacuum cleaners and industrial machinery, not motorcycles. Real bikers used chains. They were louder, dirtier, and required constant maintenance, which was apparently part of the authentic Harley experience. But Harley's engineers were tired of dealing with chain problems. Chains stretched, broke, needed constant adjustment, and sprayed oil on everything behind the rear wheel. A belt would run cleaner, last longer, and require almost no maintenance. It was obviously better technology, which meant traditional Harley customers would obviously hate it. The Sturgis package tried to soften the blow with chopper styling that referenced the famous rally. Black and orange paint, extended front end, low-slung profile, everything that screamed outlaw motorcycle rather than practical transportation innovation. If they had to revolutionize motorcycle drive systems, at least they could make it look rebellious. Those dual belts were the real story here. Primary drive belt, final drive belt, no chains anywhere on the bike. It was whisper quiet compared to chain-driven Harleys, which was either a blessing or a curse depending on your perspective. Some riders loved the smooth operation. Others felt like they were riding electric motorcycles. The timing was perfect and terrible simultaneously. This was 1980, right after the AMF buyback, when Harley needed every sale they could get. But belt drives were unproven technology on motorcycles, and riders were understandably skeptical about trusting their safety to industrial belting. Early reliability was mixed. The belts themselves worked fine, but the pulleys and tensioning systems needed refinement. Some owners had trouble-free experiences. Others dealt with belt slippage, premature wear, and adjustment headaches that were worse than chain maintenance. Only 1,470 riders were brave enough to try it in the first year. Most waited to see if the early adopters survived before considering belt drive Harleys themselves. Those early Sturgis models are now considered pivotal in Harley history, the bikes that proved belt drives could work and paved the way for modern Harley reliability. Number 3. The 1982 FXR Superglide II. The early FXR with shovelhead engine and belt drive, a Frankenstein's monster that mixed the best of old Harley with the promise of new technology. Nobody knows exactly how many of these rolled off the line. Forum discussions put it under 2,000, but Harley's record-keeping in '82 was about as reliable as their quality control. What we do know is that this was the transitional bike in the last gasp of shovelhead power meeting the future of belt drive reliability. The concept made perfect sense on paper. Take the proven shovelhead engine that riders knew and trusted, bolt it into the new rubber-mounted FXR frame, and add the belt drive system that was showing promise on the Sturgis. You'd get classic Harley character without the chain maintenance hassles and frame vibration issues. In practice, it was weird. The shovelhead had its own personality, oily, rattly, temperamental but charismatic. Mounting it in rubber isolators changed the whole riding experience. Some of that authentic Harley shake and rattle got dampened out, which purists saw as losing the soul of the machine. The belt drive created its own learning curve. Dealers didn't know how to service it properly, riders didn't know how to adjust it, and the whole system was so new that troubleshooting meant calling the factory and hoping someone had seen the problem before. But here's what made these bikes special. They were genuinely better than what came before. The FXR frame was a massive improvement over the old shovelhead chassis. Handling went from pray and hope to actually functional. The belt drive, once you figured it out, was maintenance-free compared to chains. Most importantly, these were the last shovelheads that weren't complete disasters. By '82, Harley had finally gotten their quality controls somewhat under control. These engines were still oil leakers and vibration machines, but they were reliable oil leakers and vibration machines. The rarity comes from timing. This combination only existed for 1 year before the Evolution engine took over. Anyone who wanted a belt drive Harley after '82 got the new motor, which was objectively better but lacked the shovelhead's character. Today, FXR Superglide II owners are either completely obsessed with their bikes or trying desperately to sell them. There's no middle ground with a motorcycle this historically significant and mechanically quirky. And we have number 2. The 1985-86 FXWG Wide Glide. This is where Harley's transition period got really weird. The Wide Glide with early Evolution engine, 4-speed transmission, belt drive, and, wait for it, a kickstart lever. Because nothing says modern motorcycle technology quite like starting your bike with your foot. Under 2,000 of these oddballs were built across both years, and they represent Harley at their most confused. The Evolution engine was new, reliable, and objectively better than the shovelhead it replaced. The belt drive was proven technology by '85. The 4-speed transmission was adequate if not exciting. But that kickstart? Pure nostalgia marketing. See, Harley's marketing department was convinced that riders missed the ritual of kickstarting their bikes. Electric starters were convenient, but they lacked soul. Real bikers wanted to earn their rides by kickstarting them every morning, rain or shine, in parking lots across America. The engineering department probably laughed until they cried, then figured out how to make it work. You got both. Electric start for when you needed to actually get somewhere, kickstart for when you wanted to feel authentic. Most owners used the electric start exclusively and treated the kick lever as expensive decoration. But here's where it gets interesting. Some 85 and 86 wide glides got leftover shovelhead parts mixed in during production. Harley was clearing out old inventory, and quality control wasn't checking every component. You might get shovelhead primary covers, oil pumps, or other bits mixed with your Evolution engine. These hybrid bikes are collector gold now. They're not supposed to exist according to official records, but there they are. Evolution engines with shovelhead DNA scattered throughout. Proving authenticity requires serious detective work and deep knowledge of part numbers across both engine families. The wide glide styling was perfect for the era. Extended front end, wide rear tire, chopper proportions that looked fast standing still. The Evolution engine actually delivered decent performance, and the belt drive meant you could ride it regularly without constant maintenance. Only problem? Most buyers didn't understand what they were getting. This was too modern for shovelhead traditionalists, too retro for riders who wanted cutting-edge performance. The kickstart confused everybody. Today, finding an unmolested example means serious hunting. These bikes were weird enough that many owners modified them immediately, trying to make them more normal or more extreme depending on their preferences. Finally, number 1. The 1981 FXB Sturgis. 3,543 motorcycles that proved belt drives weren't just a crazy experiment. They were the future of Harley-Davidson. This was the second-year Sturgis, built after Harley's engineers had time to work out the kinks from the 1980 model. The dual belt system was refined, the pulleys were redesigned, and dealer training had improved enough that most shops could actually service the things properly. But the real story wasn't the mechanical improvements, it was the timing. This was 1981. The year Harley bought themselves back from AMF and declared independence from corporate overlords. The Sturgis became a symbol of that freedom, a bike that represented everything Harley wanted to be: innovative, rebellious, and purely American. The styling was classic outlaw chopper, black paint, orange accents, extended front end, and enough chrome to blind oncoming traffic. But underneath the familiar looks was genuinely revolutionary technology. Those belts ran smoother and quieter than any chain-driven Harley, lasted 3 times longer, and required almost no maintenance. Post-buyback optimism boosted sales significantly over the original 80 model. Riders who had been skeptical of belt drives were won over by early adopters who reported trouble-free experiences. Dealers were finally comfortable selling and servicing the technology. The motorcycle press was writing positive reviews instead of questioning Harley's sanity. Most importantly, the 81 Sturgis proved that Harley could innovate without losing their identity. This was still recognizably a Harley motorcycle. It looked right, sounded right, and felt right to ride. But it also worked better than traditional Harleys, which was a revelation for customers used to accepting reliability problems as part of the ownership experience. The production numbers reflect that success. 3,543 bikes represented genuine market acceptance, not just collector curiosity. These weren't garage queens or investment pieces. They were daily riders that proved belt technology was ready for real-world use. By the mid-80s, every new Harley came with belt final drive. And today, you'd be hard-pressed to find a motorcycle manufacturer that still uses chains for anything but racing applications. The 1981 Sturgis didn't just start a trend, it revolutionized the entire industry. Finding an original survivor today means owning a piece of genuine motorcycle history, the bike that saved Harley-Davidson's future while honoring their past. These 12 motorcycles tell the story of a company that nearly died trying to reinvent itself and accidentally created some of the most valuable bikes on earth in the process. Harley's desperate experiments of the 80s became today's million-dollar auction stars. But here's the thing about rare motorcycles. You can look, but you probably can't touch, and you definitely can't afford to ride them daily. Most of these bikes spend their lives in climate-controlled garages, polished but never truly enjoyed. What if reliability matters more than rarity, and comfort trumps collectability? As one wise mechanic once told me, the best motorcycle is the one you're not afraid to put miles on. Ready for bikes you can actually afford to own and ride? Check out our next video. 15 affordable, comfortable motorcycles that last forever. Because sometimes the best investment is the one you can actually use. Tap the bell to get notification. See you on the next one.